COVID-19 is raging out of control here in San Diego. A record number of cases today, and new restrictions could start very soon. What local restaurants are begging the public to do before they're forced to close.
An outbreak at an East County elementary school, students forced back to distance learning. The explanation parents are demanding.
It was just tumble down the rocks, get in the water, get out to them.
As we celebrate a season of hope, a San Diego police officer shares what went through his mind as he saved the lives of two young girls.
ABC 10 News at 6 starts now.
We begin tonight with the COVID surge. Yet another horrible record set today, with experts saying the worst is yet to come. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Businesses were hoping the virus would get under control to head off these new restrictions, but it does not look like that's going to happen. Here are the latest numbers. San Diego County broke another record today, reporting more than 2,000 new cases of COVID-19. That brings our total to more than 88,000. 7 more people have also died. 1,047 San Diegans have now lost their lives due to COVID-19. And businesses are pleading for support before they're forced to shut down for good once again. Many know it's just a matter of days before the governor's new shutdown order takes effect. One frustrated local restaurant owner told our ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer Dela Cruz there's a way the public might be able to help some of these businesses survive.
The executive chef at Terra American Bistro is still digesting the new stay-at-home order.
It's like going back to March, and it's even worse.
New restrictions go into effect when a region's available ICU capacity drops below 15%. Once triggered, schools that have received waivers can stay open, as well as critical infrastructure. Retail can stay open at 20% capacity. Restaurants will be restricted to takeout and delivery. Jeff Rossman says it's an unfair hit to businesses, seeing as the county's numbers indicate bars and restaurants only make up about 10% of community exposure settings.
They can control the business, but they can't control what's going on at home, right? And we saw that. The CDC even urged people not to travel for Thanksgiving, and look what happened.
Restaurants have had to adapt numerous times through the pandemic, but Rossman says their flexibility is going unnoticed by the state.
Some of the restaurants here spent tens, 20s, 30s thousands of dollars in air purifier measures and still getting no credit.
With no on-site dining, restaurants already struggling to get by may have to close their doors for good.
It's come a long way, but it still sucks. People are still freaked out and they're scared. And even though there was the ability to go eat out on patios, a lot of people still weren't doing it.
With the holidays underway and more restrictions looming, he's urging everyone to take advantage of small businesses while they still can.
Now's a great time to buy gift cards, not just restaurants, but all small businesses. Please support the restaurants and dine as much as you can.
Jennifer Dela Cruz, ABC 10 News.
Our current ICU capacity for Southern California stands at 20%. The new restrictions are triggered 24 hours after we hit 15%.
Meantime, parents in Lakeside are upset after Winter Gardens Elementary School announced it's closing campus for 2 weeks amid a coronavirus outbreak. ABC 10 News reporter Cassie Carlisle reveals why parents are demanding an explanation for this decision.
This email shocked parents Thursday night. Superintendent Andrew Johnson at Lakeside Union School District announced they met the threshold, 12 coronavirus cases in the last 2 weeks, requiring Winter Gardens Elementary School to close. The school will transition to distance learning until January 4th.
What parents really want me to ask you is why we're closing now instead of when the first coronavirus case came to light.
All the cases that we've had up to this point, no other person has been identified as a close contact.
The email states anyone who was in close contact with those who were infected has been contacted by San Diego County Public Health.
So in this case, we were notified of a few cases over the Thanksgiving break, actually when school was closed, and then a few more this past week when school reopened.
Johnson said most likely the virus was contracted outside of school. Etheria La Jolla immunologist supported, saying on the molecular level, adults are more likely to pass the virus to each other and not get it from children. Johnson wouldn't say how many students and staff each were infected due to privacy laws.
Staff and students are all wearing masks. They're staying socially distant. We've hired additional cleaning staff.
Johnson saying high-touch surfaces are cleaned every hour on campus. Johnson said the district and public health support the procedures they have in place, and the school won't make any changes when they reopen. Cassie Carlisle, ABC 10 News.
Johnson and an immunologist said they're concerned with the impact that distance learning could have on students' mental health. Statistics show higher rates of depression among students learning at home. And the Navy is abandoning a plan to make hundreds of local sailors quarantine away from their families for the holidays. The Union Tribune says several sailors told them the crew of the USS Rushmore was ordered to return to the ship to isolate for 28 days ahead of leaving port later this month. That's twice as long as the Navy's normal quarantine. The Navy told the newspaper the captain announced that order before fleet commanders approved it. The Navy says the sailors will be with their families for the holidays.
The temporary homeless shelter at the convention center might not be shut down this month after all. Earlier this week, we did report that planning was underway to move the hundreds of residents to hotels that are being converted into housing. There's a time component because the convention center funding expires December the 31st. But now incoming Mayor Todd Gloria says he's going to try to find funding to keep the convention center shelter open into the new year. Because of COVID, there aren't any conventions scheduled, at least until April.
A new study that found the stimulus checks sent out earlier this year helped many people stay home instead of risking going to work. UC San Diego researchers used cell phone data to track how communities were complying with the first round of stay-at-home orders. And the data showed that working class families were less likely to stay home because they needed to leave for work. The researchers told our media partners at KPBS that changed after people got the stimulus checks.
The truth is that it is simply more difficult to shelter in place if you're living on the edge and you're going through hard times than if you have the disposable income to do what middle class and upper class people do, which is just stay home.
Congress is now negotiating a new stimulus package, but direct payments to the public are not reportedly part of the current deal.
Police are sorting out what led up to a teenager getting shot today in El Cajon. Our ABC 10 News breaking news tracker was there as deputies questioned two people who were with that victim. We have blurred their faces since they've not been charged with a crime. We're told the teenagers were spotted outside a pot shop. They moved to a nearby dead end, and that's where investigators think the shooting happened. They all drove to a gas station on 2nd Street, and that's when police were called. No word on the victim's condition tonight.
Investigators now say this week's Willow fire in Rancho San Diego may have been started by a heat lamp instead of a chicken coop. The fire started Wednesday night. It quickly scorched 30 acres. The family who lost their home in the Willow fire describes a harrowing escape from the flames. Gwendolyn Kavlik's father, Doug, was fast asleep in his home on Wind River Road. The fire started racing up a hill within minutes. Doug woke up to a loud knock.
By the time he got to the door, the kitchen was on fire. The fireman said, "You need to go." And when he went upstairs to get the keys and his wallet, the fire came through the windows of his bedroom.
Doug was able to drive away to safety and watched as his home of 33 years burned. 6 other homes were damaged from heat and smoke.
Our ABC 10 News meteorologist Angelica Campos is tracking the Santa Ana winds. Fortunately, they've died down quite a bit. Unfortunately, that's not going to last. Here's Angelica with an update.
That's right, Steve. But if we just look at tonight by itself, we can say good news. The winds have died down and it's looking much better. It was already better this afternoon. As a result, the red flag warning was canceled earlier than expected. You can see now the winds averaging 10 miles per hour in Julian, about 7 in Alpine and around the county. Not many places actually reporting any wind. A few, including Mount Laguna at 9 miles per hour, so almost no wind. But the concern as we go into the weekend is the fact that there's very little moisture in the atmosphere. Any brush that's already dry is going to be more susceptible in a case of a fire. Relative humidity tonight averaging from 15 to 25%. It is a little bit better than yesterday, but it's going to dry out again next week with more Santa Ana winds. I'll show you what to expect and the watch that's expected for next week.
Angelica, thank you. Happening now, San Diegans are finding the holiday spirit at a taste of December nights. course, it's a COVID-friendly version of the annual December Nights Holiday Festival that would normally bring in hundreds of thousands of people to Balboa Park. This year, the drivers will follow each other into Inspiration Point, where dozens of food trucks will await. Attendees, just like Santa there, they must wear masks and remain in their cars. No bicycles or scooters are allowed this year. The event happens daily from 11 in the morning to 10 p.m. through Sunday.